So 7 years ago tomorrow, I stepped into this church for the very first time and I began an audition sermon with these words. Life itself is a prayer. The prayers we say shape the lives we live, and the lives we live shape the prayers we say. And it all shapes the kingdom, which expresses itself in and among us. Amen.
Amen.
A year ago today, Zhou Youguang died at the tender age of 111. Now, Google helped the world remember this truth by changing the logo at the center of their page yesterday to honor him. Google's doodle often serves as a teaching tool, nudging us to learn about a who or event that has sent our world in a new direction. Such is the case with Zhou Youguang. Born in China, Zhou at an early age loved linguistics but pursued a more traditional path, banking. Still, his hobby was well known by the Chinese premier who asked him to head up a committee on language. Initially, Zhou resisted, saying, "I am an amateur, a layman. I can't do the job." And yet, eventually, he did take the job. He abandoned economics for linguistics and spent the rest of his life studying languages. Now, why did Zhou change from work he could do to something that was completely new? At 105, he later explained, "Well, everybody urged me to change professions, so I did." 3 years after he was employed, Zhou created Pinyin, the phonetic system that has helped 1 billion people learn Chinese. Before Pinyin existed, only 15% of China could read. After Pinyin, 95% of China can read. Wow. How many people achieved literacy and success because the Chinese premier nudged Zhou? And because Zhou let everyone know it was easier to sound out words than memorize hundreds of Chinese characters by rote. I find it fascinating that originally Zhou was last name Yao Ping. Actually, last name is his first name, but Zhou adopted the pen name Youguang, which means bright light to the world. Bright light to the world. And so he was. So he was. Dr. King preached, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. This weekend, our nation, through the celebration of Dr. King in our scriptures, holds and honors individuals who keep others moving. We celebrate the nudges of the world, the yentas, who get involved, who resolve they will shape and shift others. Yenta, a Yiddish word often translated as gossip or busybody, but its original derivative means gentle or noble. Call them what you will. We still, ever always need gentle mentors, noble encouragers who subtly or overtly urge us not to be still, but to keep moving forward. Our Old Testament tells us of the boy Samuel constantly being woken up by shout-outs from heaven, but he, remember, had not met God yet. Maybe he was only 10 or 11. He needed guidance about what to do, about the who that was calling him. Remember, his mother, Hannah, originally barren, had dropped Samuel at the temple as a gift back to God for his miraculous birth. So Samuel became the guardian of the Ark of the Covenant, that gold-covered chest holding the original 10 Commandments, and, according to the letter of Hebrews, also Aaron's rod and a sample pot of manna. Samuel could have spent his entire life on guard duty, but he kept hearing someone calling out. Samuel could have ignored that voice, made a choice to go back to sleep, but instead, he got out of bed 3 times over to seek out the temple priest, Eli, and to ask him, what do you think's going on? Eli, the nudge, told Samuel exactly what to do. Go back to bed and wait for God to speak again, and then actually do something. Respond. Say, speak, Lord. Your servant is listening. Howard Thurman, theologian and civil rights activist, said this: there are two questions that we have to ask ourselves. The first is, where am I going? And the second is, who will go with me? If you ever get these questions in the wrong order, you are in trouble. I will own I generally do not enjoy preaching on John's Gospel. And I made this blanket observation at home yesterday, and it's then my 10-year-old rose to John's defense as if he was sitting next to her on the couch. What's wrong with John? Why don't you like him? Well, I explained the other Gospels are just so user-friendly. Easy to read, full of stories. John's mystical, mysterious words. They hurt my brain. We do often forget that there are many wonderful stories just in John. A few examples: Jesus changing water into wine at the wedding at Cana, just in John. His dark of night conversation with Nicodemus, just in John. Meeting the Samaritan woman of the well. Jesus rescuing an adulterous woman from stoning. Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. The washing of Jesus' feet. The post-resurrection when Jesus and Thomas meet. All only in John. And only in John is today's story, where spiritual noticing and nudging becomes a fabulous work of art. Remember, right before the part of the gospel we just heard, John the Baptist is pumping up the Messiah's coming, telling his followers Jesus is way better, way greater than him, that John has actually seen the Holy Spirit descend on to Jesus. So when Jesus passes by, John says, look, that's the guy I was telling you about. And so naturally, John's 2 disciples ditch John for Jesus. They follow him. does answer, or question rather, "What do you want?" And they respond, "Rabbi, where are you staying?" Translation, we want you as our teacher. We want to go with you. Jesus approves, says, "Come and see," and then one of the two, Andrew, goes and finds his brother Peter, brings him to Jesus. Then we pick up with today's gospel. It's a continued domino effect. Jesus goes and hunts Philip down, told he already knows Andrew and Peter, and he says, "Follow me," and Philip does that, and then, domino effect, he searches out Nathanael, tells him, "I have found the one Moses and the prophets said would come." Don't you just love Nathanael's snarky response? "Can anything good come from Nazareth?" Philip totally takes his big boy pill and welcomes him still to come and see. And when Nathanael finally arrives on the scene, Jesus gives him a compliment, and I do not mean here truly as an Israelite in which there is no deceit. That is not the real compliment here. The real compliment is this one: "I saw you while you were under the fig tree. I saw you." Of all the gifts Jesus gave to the world, what saved people, what changed people's hearts was Jesus' talent for coming, seeing, and being with others. Jesus, bright light of all the world, took notice where people were. And he nudged people forward on to new beginnings. Then he encouraged his followers to be as he was and do as he did. To nudge, to notice others. Marion Wright Edelman asserts a lot of people are waiting for a Martin Luther King or a Mahatma Gandhi to come back, but they are gone. We are it. It is up to us. It is up to you. After a lovely 12-hour interview here, I sensed Grace was a place full of nudgers. One person saw the 3-inch heels I wore and then went to the store and bought me a pair of snow boots. Another I know tromped through 2 feet of snow to bang on a window where my husband was asleep, tucked with the only key back into the inn. I notice people have noticed that paying for someone's laundry can make a difference. I notice that sometimes here, someone sees and it's clear that a homeless person needs a cup of coffee. I notice when you notice. What can just you do for Jesus? Did you ever think that perhaps you are the one, the amateur, that God's Son really needs? Friends, life is a prayer spoken through you. In your looking and seeing, in your nudging and being. How will you keep moving God's kingdom in? Amen.